There is a moment that reveals your real level of power. Not when people praise you, not when the room agrees with you, not when everything is easy. The real test happens when someone questions your value, twists your intentions, throws a subtle insult into the air, and waits for you to react. In that split second, your heart speeds up, your mind races, and every emotional instinct in you screams the same command. Explain yourself, prove them wrong, defend your image. But that impulse, the urge to rescue your reputation with words, is often the exact moment your power begins to collapse. Because the second you rush to explain, you step into their frame. You accept their accusation as the center of reality. You allow them to become the judge, and you become the one on trial. It does not matter if your explanation is logical. It does not matter if your intentions were pure. In the eyes of the room, the one scrambling to clarify almost always looks weaker than the one standing still. And Machiavelli understood this better than most people ever will. Power is not only about truth. Power is about perception. And perception is shaped by composure, restraint, and who controls the emotional frame. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how the strongest people are rarely the first to defend themselves? They do not jump in with paragraphs. They don't beg to be understood. They don't panic when misunderstood. They stay calm. They stay measured. They let the room feel their presence before they offer their words. That is not accidental. That is discipline. That is status. That is what happens when someone no longer needs permission from other people to feel secure in who they are. Today, we are placing the stamp of unshakable composure on your mental framework. Because if you master this one principle, your entire social presence changes. People stop seeing you as easy to provoke. They stop treating you like someone who can be emotionally cornered. They stop assuming they can pull you into drama with one accusation. And once that shift happens, respect enters the room before you even speak. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved if one cannot be both." In modern life, that truth transforms into something just as powerful. It is much safer to be respected than endlessly explained. The need to be understood will drain your energy, weaken your posture, and hand your emotional stability to anyone bold enough to challenge you. Think about it. The person who constantly explains themselves is silently saying, "Your opinion controls my peace." And that is the kind of sentence that destroys authority from the inside out. Most people defend themselves because they were trained. As children, when we were accused, the only way to escape punishment was explanation. "I didn't do it. That wasn't my fault. You misunderstood." Over time, the nervous system learned that safety comes from convincing the authority figure. The problem is that many adults never outgrow this pattern. They carry it into the office, into relationships, into friendships, and into the public arena. Every disagreement feels like a courtroom. Every accusation feels like a verdict. Every misunderstanding feels like a threat to survival. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most attacks are not really about truth. They are about control. The person accusing you is often not looking for understanding. They're looking for leverage. They want to see if your emotional state can be managed from the outside. They want to know if one label can make you panic, if one jab can make you overtalk, if one public challenge can make you abandon your center. The moment you react impulsively, you answer their question for them. That is why defending yourself rarely works the way you hope it will. You think more explanation will produce more clarity. But in most social situations, excessive explanation creates the opposite effect. It signals insecurity. It tells people that your self-image depends on their approval. And once people feel that dependency, they begin to test it again and again. The one who cannot tolerate misunderstanding becomes easy to manipulate because their buttons are always exposed. So what is the alternative? Silence. Not weak silence, not nervous silence, not the silence of someone who has nothing to say. The silence of someone who does not need to rush. The silence of someone who refuses to let another person's accusation dictate the pace of the exchange. Controlled silence is not passive, it is strategic. It creates tension. It reflects pressure back to the source. It forces the other person to sit inside the atmosphere they created. Imagine someone says, "You're being arrogant right now." The reactive version of you says, "I'm not arrogant, you're just misunderstanding me." But the composed version pauses, holds eye contact, lets the words sit in the air. And then, if anything needs to be said at all, simply answers, "That's your interpretation." Do you feel the difference? One response chases approval, the other protects the frame. One leaks power, the other contains it. Silence terrifies insecure people because they cannot control what it means. The moment you stop feeding them explanations, they are forced to face their own words without support. They repeat themselves, they overtalk, they add emotional energy. They look around the room for validation. In trying to pressure you, they often expose themselves instead. And this is where the power flips. The room stops studying the accusation and starts studying the contrast. Who is calm? Who is agitated? Who looks rooted? Who looks desperate? Social power lives in that contrast. This is why mystery matters. The more you explain yourself, the easier you are to map. The easier you are to map, the easier you are to predict. And the easier you are to predict, the easier you are to manipulate. But when you stay measured, when you reveal less, when you refuse to hand people your internal blueprint, you become harder to control. Mystery creates gravity. People lean in, people speculate, people become cautious. And caution in social dynamics often becomes respect. Think of the most unforgettable figures in business, leadership, or film. They are rarely the ones arguing the most. They are the ones who make their silence mean something. Their presence does half the talking. Their calm does the rest. They understand a brutal reality. The crowd does not only remember what you said, it remembers how you made uncertainty feel. If you remain composed while others lose balance, they will start assigning strength to you even before they understand you. Now, silence is not the only tool. Sometimes words are necessary. But when you speak, your words must not sound like pleading. They must sound like placement. They must shift the frame, not surrender to it. One way to do that is through calm deflection. If someone says, "You always think you're smarter than everyone," instead of defending your humility, you can respond, "Interesting that confidence reads that way to you." That answer does not chase innocence, it redirects attention to their perception. Another tool is the question. Questions shift the burden back to the accuser. If someone says, "Why are you always so difficult?" do not immediately explain your behavior. Ask, "What exactly are you trying to control here?" If someone says, "You're being selfish," you can say, "What expectation of yours isn't being met?" Suddenly, you are no longer the defendant. You are examining the frame itself, and that change in posture is everything. There is also a higher level response that requires real inner control, calm agreement with the truth without accepting the shame. This is where most people fail. If someone says, "You handled that badly," and they are right, the powerful response is not denial. The powerful response is, "I did handle that badly. I'll correct it." Short, clean, no performance, no collapse, no defense. This shows something very few people can project in tense moments: self-possession. Understand this clearly. Ownership is not weakness. Excuses are weakness. Accepting facts is not the same as accepting a false identity. You can admit a mistake without agreeing that you are incompetent. You can acknowledge a delay without accepting the label of failure. You can correct your actions without surrendering your dignity. In fact, the person who can own reality without spiraling often appears far stronger than the person trying to explain why reality should not count. That is because true strength does not need spotless perfection, it needs internal stability. And internal stability is built when you stop using other people's approval as emotional oxygen. This is where the deeper work begins. Why do accusations hurt so much? Often because they touch a wound you have not fully faced. If someone calls you something you know is absurd, you laugh. But if someone names a fear you secretly carry, your nervous system lights up. You rush to fight the label because part of you fears it might be true. That is why the strongest defense is not verbal, it is self-knowledge. When you know your strengths, your flaws, your contradictions, and your shadow, other people's labels lose their power to destabilize you. A person who has already faced their imperfections does not panic when someone points at one of them. They remain grounded, they remain whole, and that wholeness is what makes them difficult to shame. Think about it. If you know you can be impatient, then being called impatient does not shatter you. If you know you can be intense, then being called intense does not put you on trial. If you know you are still growing, then criticism becomes data, not identity. The person who accepts their humanity becomes harder to manipulate because they are no longer running from exposure. They have already met themselves in private. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I protect my frame. Now, let's bring this into real life. In a business meeting, someone subtly undermines you. They say, "I'm not sure your strategy is thought through." Most people immediately start over-explaining, but the disciplined move is to slow everything down. Pause, lean back, let the room breathe. Then ask, what would you improve specifically? Now the critic has to produce substance. If they have nothing, the room sees it. If they do have something useful, you gain clarity without ever losing your composure. Either way, you win more by controlling the tempo than by racing to defend your intelligence. In relationships, the same principle applies with even more emotional weight. If someone says, "You don't care about me anymore," the weak response is panic and over-explaining. The stronger response is grounded clarity. That is not how I see it. If you want to talk about what you need, we can do that. Notice what changed. You did not accept the accusation as truth. You did not attack them back. You redirected the conversation toward reality instead of emotional theater. That is emotional leadership. Online, this principle becomes survival. The internet rewards reaction, it monetizes outrage, it feeds on public defense. People bait you because they know that if you respond emotionally, they gain reach, energy, and attention. So do not donate your nervous system to strangers. Not every post deserves a statement. Not every criticism deserves a thread. Not every lie deserves your time. Sometimes the strongest online move is to keep producing, keep building, and let consistency bury noise. There are moments, though, when a short phrase can do what 1,000 explanations never could. Noted. That's your view. Think what you like. Time will tell. These phrases are powerful because they close the door without drama. They communicate that you heard the words, but you refuse to hand over the steering wheel. They are especially useful when you are dealing with people who weaponize conversation just to keep you emotionally engaged. And let's be honest, some people do not want truth. They want access. Access to your anger. Access to your insecurity. Access to your need to be seen correctly. Once you understand that, you stop treating every accusation like a moral emergency. Some things do not need a defense. Some things need distance. Some things need a boundary. Some things need total silence. This is where mental toughness separates itself from performative confidence. Real discipline is not loud. It does not need to dominate every room verbally. It knows how to sit in discomfort without trying to escape through explanation. It can tolerate being temporarily misunderstood. It can tolerate tension. It can tolerate someone else feeling unresolved. That ability alone gives you an edge most people will never have. Because most people are not defeated by facts, they are defeated by discomfort. They speak too soon because silence feels unbearable. They apologize too quickly because tension feels dangerous. They over-explain because ambiguity makes them anxious. But the person who can remain centered inside ambiguity becomes incredibly powerful. They stop acting like prey. They stop moving like someone waiting for permission to exist. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I control my response. Machiavelli understood frame better than most modern thinkers. He knew that once you accept another person's framing of you, you begin fighting from below. The smarter move is to protect the frame before you protect the image. If someone tries to turn the moment into a trial, refuse the role. Refuse to become the defendant. Speak only when your words move the power back to neutral or in your favor. If your words do not do that, silence is usually stronger. This does not mean you become cold, rude, or disconnected. It means you become sovereign. Sovereignty means your identity is not under public management. It means you can hear criticism without collapsing into explanation. It means you can apologize without groveling. It means you can set boundaries without hostility. It means you are no longer emotionally for sale to anyone who knows how to accuse loudly. And here is the paradox. The less you defend yourself, the more other people often feel compelled to defend you. When you stay calm and someone keeps pressing, the crowd starts to notice. They think, why is this person pushing so hard? Why is he still attacking when there was no reaction? Your restraint makes their aggression look excessive. Your composure turns the room. And suddenly, the social shield you were trying to build with words begins forming around you naturally. That is one of the deepest laws of presence. When you stop begging to be believed, people begin feeling your certainty. When you stop advertising your innocence, people start reading strength into your restraint. When you stop chasing approval, your energy becomes more solid, more grounded, more magnetic. You stop performing. You start commanding. So here is your challenge. For the next 7 days, practice the no defense discipline. If you are late, say, I'm late, and stop there. If someone misunderstands you in a minor situation, resist the urge to over-clarify. If someone throws a subtle jab, pause before responding. Watch your body. Watch your breath. Watch how often the urge to explain is really just the urge to escape discomfort. Then deny that urge your obedience. You will notice something powerful. At first, it feels unnatural. Then it feels uncomfortable. Then it starts to feel liberating. Your energy returns. Your speech becomes cleaner. Your posture changes. People begin approaching you differently because they can no longer sense the same emotional leakage. They realize that you are not easy to hook. And once people know they cannot easily provoke you, the entire game changes. Think about it. A person who cannot be baited is a person who cannot be easily controlled. A person who does not rush to explain is a person who trusts themselves. A person who can stand in silence while others spin is a person with rare discipline. And discipline is attractive. Discipline is respected. Discipline is remembered. Drop this affirmation. I focus on outcomes, not approval. From this point on, stop living in defense, start living in definition. Define your tone, define your pace, define what gets access to your energy. Define who deserves an explanation and who does not. Every time you refuse to over-explain, you reclaim power. Every time you hold your center under pressure, you build presence. Every time you choose silence over panic, you stamp authority deeper into your character. So the next time someone throws an accusation into the room and waits for you to break, remember this: you do not have to enter their courtroom. You do not have to prove your worth to every critic. You do not have to hand your peace to someone else's opinion. Hold your gaze, slow your breath. Let silence do its work. And when you finally speak, make sure your words feel like a move, not a plea. Which stamp are you adding to your mindset today? Tell me in the comments. And if this script sharpened something in you, subscribe to Mindset Stamps, because this channel is not here to entertain your weakness. It is here to discipline your mind, harden your frame, and help you move through life with the kind of presence that cannot be easily shaken.